Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I feel like that AT&T guy. All right. We will call the special meeting of August the 5th to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Churko. No.
Here. Sorry. Step away for a second.
Dobie.
Here.
Councilmember Gross.
Here.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Here.
All right, special orders of the day. Consideration of the process for City Council submission of a rebuttal ballot argument to the argument against their proposed 1 1/2 cent sales tax. Chet, would you like to introduce this?
Just very briefly, sir. On the 20th, the City Council approved placing a 1 1/2 cent sales tax or inspection use tax measure on the ballot in November. Same meeting also directed the Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Pro Tem Churko, Councilmember Hasselbrink to author a argument in favor of the measure, which was subsequently on the 27th. Since that time, we've received an argument against, and as such, the council has a decision to make with regards to whether to move forward with a rebuttal to that argument. I will end there by saying that staff is, given the name of the ballot measure, staff is very limited in the role that we can play in these discussions. We can provide assistance and legal opinion, but outside of that, the decision to move forward at this point is obviously at the purview of the council.
Okay, thank you. So basically, we have two issues. One, do we want to do a rebuttal? And two, how do we want the process to work? Who writes it? That kind of thing, like last time. Do we want to bring it back for a full council review? So let me start with the first question. Is everybody in favor of doing a rebuttal?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Dean?
I don't see there's a need for it. I've read the rebuttal. It's not really factual, but what is a rebuttal going to do?
I think the reason for it is it will flesh out the very thing you see, that how many times he's factually incorrect.
Because I thought like you, Dean, like why do it? But what he's saying is not factual. So that is the reason that I would think we would need a rebuttal.
Does he have an opportunity to rebut the rebuttal then? That would be a city attorney thing.
The author of the argument against the measure does have the ability to file a rebuttal, but it will not be a rebuttal or a response to your rebuttal. It's an opportunity for the author against to respond to our first direct argument. When the author of the argument against the measure submitted his argument opposed to the measure, he was basing the argument solely on the measure that the council had approved for the November election. He will now have an opportunity to rebut the city's argument in favor of that measure.
If we don't do one, he can't submit another one. Is that correct?
Wendy, jump in if you have any thoughts on this, but my belief is that he can still submit a rebuttal against our argument in favor of the measure, whether or not we rebut his argument in opposition.
That's correct.
How many times can a citizen do that?
This will complete the loop. There's a potential for 4 total written arguments. And when I say arguments here, I'm including the rebuttal arguments. There's an opportunity for 4 total arguments to appear on the ballot that is presented to the voters.
So Michael, if he was to answer with another rebuttal, he would only be able to say really the same things he said in the first go around. Is that basically correct?
He will have an opportunity to craft a rebuttal argument that is made in response to the city's argument in favor of the measure.
And, oh, he doesn't have that already?
When he submitted his argument in opposition, he was opposing the measure and the text of the measure itself. Now he's been provided with a copy of the city's council's argument in favor. And so the opposition will have an opportunity to respond to that argument now.
So it's two different things, right, Michael? It's opposition to the measure and then opposition to our support.
Yes, that's correct.
But he gets no chance to answer our rebuttal.
That's correct.
Okay.
Except like in the news media, they always get the last word. So if we rebut him, he comes back and puts in another rebuttal, we can't respond to that. If he submits another one, city attorney, are we allowed to rebut that one?
Not as far as materials that will show up in the voters package. Obviously, proponents and opponents of the measure will have opportunities to speak to the press and try to, I guess, put their respective positions forward in that regard. But as to the information presented on the ballot to the voters, again, it's a total of 4 potential written arguments, and that 4 is inclusive of 2 potential rebuttal arguments.
Michael, just to confirm, the first action is us passing the ordinance. I might be using the wrong word there, but we're making the argument for the sales tax. He then gets to rebut the fact that we are putting the sales tax on the ballot. We rebut, and then he gets a chance to rebut our first submission, our first argument for. That's all. That's the 4. Us, then he rebuts the original statement, and then he gets a chance to rebut our argument for, but he doesn't really get a chance to see our rebuttal to his argument.
That's correct, and that is because the proponents and opponents have the same timeline and deadlines for submitting rebuttal arguments at this stage, similar to the fact that the proponents and opponents have the same deadline for filing arguments for and arguments opposed to the measure itself.
So I kind of go back to my first thinking that his response here is inaccurate. But do we dignify it by trying to clarify where he's wrong in a rebuttal and then giving him another opportunity to come back in and
We're not giving him another opportunity, though. He has that opportunity regardless of what we do. And if we don't correct him, he's going to resubmit incorrect facts that are then twice not responded to.
Okay.
Okay, so any disagreement, we want to rebut him? Hearing none, we then go to the issue of writing it, okay? In order to figure out who's eligible to write this, I have a basic, simple question of you, Dean, and that is, are you for or against the sales tax increase?
I did not sign the original one, and I've discussed this with Mark, just for transparency purposes. I don't think the information that was put in there is totally accurate. But the message across that is that it's going to be a problem for the city if this measure is turned down by the voters. I have no problem in terms of of, and I mentioned this earlier this afternoon to the city manager, in doing some letters to the editor and helping to clarify to the citizens what the outcome will be for the city if it's not adopted. But in terms of your yes, no question, I don't think I can sign the original one, which it's too late anyhow to do that.
Well, I think it's important we talk about what is inaccurate, because we were all really careful about making sure it was completely accurate. And I think we're all comfortable signing our name to it, that we believe it's accurate. So I don't want to just leave that out there, any sort of impression that any part of that argument is inaccurate. So we can go through it, because, I think it's important that the citizens are comfortable that the argument we put out is completely accurate. And we checked it with the city manager, we checked it with the city attorney, the chief, to make sure every part of that was accurate. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
We went word by word.
So Mark, you're asking if Dean would point out what the inaccuracies are as he sees them?
Yes.
And Dean, what do you think? What do you think was wrong with it?
I think that there are inaccuracies and assumptions. I don't really want to get into a public debate in this type of forum. Even if it was sculptured, I guess, or changed, we can't submit a different argument. So we have to stand on the argument that was approved at the meeting that I was not able to attend. And I get that. I don't think it's beneficial to the city for me to go back and try and point out at this stage areas that I believe are inaccurate.
Why not?
Sally?
But Dean, you're putting us in a terrible position here, though.
Yeah.
You for whatever reason, you couldn't make the meeting, and then, you didn't sign the document saying it's inaccurate, and now saying it in public that it's inaccurate. We're all comfortable that it's totally accurate. And, we're not asking you to sign it now. We know you can't sign it now. But if there's any issue, maybe we correct that in the rebuttal. Maybe we have you write the rebuttal so that we make sure you're comfortable with it.
I'll be happy to participate in that. But again, for me to sit down right now, and you and I talked, Mark, about it, and I went through some of the things. You again said you felt staff and the city had given you accurate information. I don't want to get involved in doing this at this particular point. I don't think it's beneficial to the citizen.
I understand, but that suggests that you might get into it later. And I think that's unfair to all of us.
I don't intend to do that.
Okay.
I unfortunately had a last minute situation come up with my wife that I had to take care of. And I was not able to attend. I have reviewed what was done, as I explained to you on the phone. And that was really, I thought it was the following day that it was due. It doesn't matter. I don't think I would have signed it otherwise. That doesn't mean that I don't recognize the critical nature of this measure on the ballot as it relates to the future of the city. I'm committed to the city and our future. Let me just let it sit at that.
So, I think Richard asked a yes or no question. Are you for the sales tax?
I don't choose to answer.
Well, Dean, how can we consider you to write the rebuttal if we don't know what side of the fence you're on?
I have no problem responding to the issues that the proponent or the opponent submitted, because I think they're inaccurate as well. If you don't want me to write it, I don't have a problem. You know, the two that wrote the original one, let them write the rebuttal then.
Well, you didn't.
But we also don't need you writing letters to the editor when we don't even know where you're standing, and it's going to come off as coming from the city council. We need a united campaign, and if we don't know where you stand, how can we have a united campaign for this?
Okay, my statement, the statement I just made is, I understand the critical nature that a positive vote or a negative vote, rather, on this measure will have on the city. That being said, I think the measure needs to pass.
That still doesn't say if you're for or against it. That's all I'm asking. It's a really simple question. We've been doing this for a year. You got to have an opinion. So no opinion?
You know, Richard, my one opinion doesn't really matter. I'm recognized what's needed for the city. I'm happy to participate in any public information campaign or not participate. That's your guys' choice. If you don't want me saying anything, that's fine.
So the minutes then are going to reflect that given a chance to state whether you're for or against it, you pass.
That's fine.
That's fine. In your own November ballot initiative, you talk of all of the significant structural cuts, all that's been done by the council. Without the funds, the deficit grows to $3 million by 2025. So you're able to write that, but you're unable to say yes or no to the sales tax. It's time to stand up. We're asked for one tough vote the whole year. This is it. You missed the meeting when the vote was possible. You get a second chance to at least let us know where you are. In August, we have to go forward with a plan to basically promote this. And we need to know where you are. I don't think we're asking too much.
I'm supportive of moving forward in doing that. I mentioned several council meetings ago that ideologically I'm opposed to taxes. That doesn't mean that this doesn't need to pass.
I think it's safe to say that none of the five of us came here to tax our friends and neighbors.
I understand that.
Anybody else have suggestions on how they'd like to proceed?
No, I would just like somebody to take a stand. You're either for or you're against it. You can't be middle of the road.
All right, well, I think let's decide who's writing the rebuttal. I don't think it makes sense to have Dean write it then.
No.
Anybody? Anybody
I'll
else?
Go ahead and take a shot at it.
All right, I'll
I will absolutely throw my neck out on the line for this because it's that important to the city. So regardless of what I feel about taxes or not taxes, this is so important to the city. I will put away my personal views and write a rebuttal.
I agree. This is
That's the oath we took.
Totally critical for the city, and I agree on taking a stand. And I'll help you write it, Shelley.
Okay.
And just so further clarification, when the decision was made to put it on the ballot, it was a 5-0 vote.
I understand that.
Okay. So when do we need this by, Wendy? Is this by next, the 11th, whatever that day that is, Tuesday?
So that's another option for council to decide. Council can decide whether or not to just have you and Shelley craft it, and then everyone can sign it and submit it to my office by the deadline. Or if council would prefer to see the rebuttal and approve it all together, then that would be at a special meeting on the 11th.
My personal feeling is, because we want to do a united front, so I think we all need to, if we're signing this, we all need to have buy-in on it. It's that important. Because these are going to become our talking points.
So then that would be a special meeting on August 11th with the deadline to submit it to my office by 5:30 on Friday, August 13th.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Don't we have a meeting that day anyway? The 11th?
We had, I had tentatively pulled council for a meeting that day. So that would be the.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve the submission of a rebuttal argument. I'm sorry, a submission of a rebuttal ballot argument to the argument against proposed 1.5 cent sales tax.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Murphy,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Churko,
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey,
Aye.
Councilmember Gross,
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Aye.
That will
Hey,
leave.
Wendy, can you send me the parameters on words and all that stuff too, so I don't get too wordy?
Yes.
Thanks.
And then, Mayor, if we may, can we just have one more motion to confirm that Councilmember Hasselbrink and Mayor Pro Tem Churko will be writing it, and that we will have a special meeting on August 11th?
I'll second your motion.
No, you.
Well, she can't make the motion.
Wow. Wendy, you just got demoted. You're on council now.
All right, I'll make the motion as Wendy stated it.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Murphy,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Churko,
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey,
Aye.
Councilmember Gross,
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Aye.
Okay. Chet, anything else you want to talk about?
Just to thank you all for your time. I know that Wendy reminded me that we have now had meetings on every consecutive week since the beginning of July. And so I am sorry for that.
A lot of important stuff going on. It's okay. Thank you to everyone on the on staff for joining as well.
All right. Well, thank you all. See you next week.
Okay, bye.